G'day, and thank you for clicking play. This is going to be a very quick video. I am using emulation, as I said. I would for some of these creative videos. Creative in 25. Be creative, retro creative in 25. Okay. Anyway, the emulation's already running, and I've already created my first little test in Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit, which is, can you create a gallery shooter in Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit? Now, if you haven't played with Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit before, just to let you know what it's built for, I guess is the word I'm looking for. It does. You can do three types of shoot 'em ups. You can do vertical scrolling. You can't do sideways scrolling. Well, you could. You do a vertical one, then you turn your monitor on its side. You can do push scroll.
Okay, suckers. Okay, suckers.
Again, vertical only. Or you can do stationary levels.
100. 100. 100.
You can even make games that have a combination of those three if you really want to. That's an option. And obviously they're built around the premise of you've got a character sprite, and your character sprite shoots bullets, and those bullets impact enemies, or you can have a collision between the enemy and the player, and you can dictate what happens. You can't have weapon pickups or anything like that, which is a bit of a shame. In fact, the one big thing missing, if this had weapon upgrades, it would be a much better program. It really would. But anyway, let's see if you can make a gallery shooter. The short answer is yes. And look, don't get your hopes up. I'm crap at pixel art. I'm just having a play about. I just want to see what this thing can do that it's not meant to do. So I've already done the work behind the scenes. I'm going to show you my gallery shooter, and then I'll talk to you about how I've done it, and we can discuss the potentials of what you could do if you wanted to. So I'm going to hit test game. Okay, proper test, and here we go. I've got my little wall, I've got some clouds, I've got the sun in the top right, and I've got my crosshair, and I am shooting. So I am the crosshair, and I'm trying to shoot down these balloons. There we go. I've got 200 points that round. Let's replay the round. One more, just so you can see what's going on. Obviously, I've not put much stuff in it. I could put more enemy types in, maybe a flock of birds, maybe a kite, whatever I wanted, really, and different points values. What can't I do with this? I can't have... There's no death to the player, so you can't really create characters that are shooting back at you, because there's no way to have a time delay death. So really all you can do is create gallery shooter in whereby and then it goes into what it thinks is the next level type, which is scrolling, which of course I haven't built, so that's why it's doing that. So yeah, it's limited, but yes, it can be done. Let's have a look at how I've done it. So basically, and that's not a full game. I'm not gonna. Maybe down the track I'll make a game using this premise, and I'll release the ADF. But it's just to show you that it could be done. First and foremost, here are my sprites. So you got the player sprite, which is the crosshair. So instead of drawing a ship or a person or a tank or something like that, I've drawn a crosshair. So completely different way of thinking to how you would usually use this program. Next sprite is, that's what I'm using for the player fire. So when you hit fire, you just get a little white dot in the middle. And the enemy sprite, I've only done one type of enemy so far. There's your enemy sprite. There we go. I haven't loaded a sound bank, which is why you weren't hearing any sounds. And I only put 3 balloons in. And I couldn't remember how you put a delay in when an enemy appears on. You can do it. I just couldn't remember how. So anyway, and then there's the enemy explosion. So the enemy is a balloon, and then the balloon. So first thing, created the sprites. Actually, that's the second thing I did. The first thing I did, so the second thing I did was create the sprites. I think that's all the sprites I've created. Yeah, because for this demo, no need to make any other sprites. I stuck with the default colors. So that's that. The background. So what I did with the background, let's go back to the first block. Default block is just a sky color. Again, I stuck with the hideous default palette. You can change the palette. So that's the default. So if you don't populate a map, it's going to populate it with that. It's the sky. Then I did some poorly drawn clouds. I flipped them to give a variation in the clouds, and the sun for the corner, and oh yeah, then the wall texture for down the bottom, just to give the level a bit of variation. And there's a flip of the wall so that you can tile it, and that's it. So I just did those. So of course, if you created multiple levels, because you can create multiple still levels, you could do different background scenes. That's what I would suggest you could do. So that's created those. Then I created the map. So by using those tiles, so once you've created a tile, let's say I want another, number 4 is the sun, so we don't want that. Let's say I want another cloud here. You change that to number 3, and oh no, number 3 is the sun, sorry. There we go, put a cloud there. And that's too many clouds, so let's say I'm gonna get rid of that cloud in the middle there, bang, get rid of him. Now they're in the background, so your sprites are never going to go behind them because this is the background, it's the level graphic. Well, let's talk about if you wanted to do a gallery shooter like this, but you still wanted it to scroll, maybe you could do a tower block and you're like a sniper, and the automatic scroll is you going up past the windows, and that's where your enemies are going to appear. Maybe. I'm trying to think how you would make the enemies appear and keep the enemies in line with the windows, but with some, potentially you could do something like that. I think it would be easier if you're doing a gallery shooter. This isn't built for making gallery shooters, let's be honest. So I would keep it simple and keep the levels static. That's what I would do, and that's what I've done. Right, I'm going to double click there. There we go. And then, so that's the map, editing map. Blah, blah, blah. Right, so, and then the most important thing is the attributes. So if we go into edit objects, okay, first and foremost, this is where, and let's go back to object 1. This is where you're telling the game what different things are going to look like. So the current object is player 1, and I want it to be the crosshair. So it's the crosshair, and that's the default sprite. So every time you go into a new object, it's going to grab sprite 0, okay? You can animate these, but for this, there was no need. It's just going to, the last frame is frame 0. It's literally just using that one frame in the corner there. Okay, you can also have, you can make it so that it's not animated. You can make it so that it's directional. So when you move, you can use different sprites. If you're going left, right, forward, diagonal, you can change those sprites out. But again, for crosshair, they're all going to be the same. So it actually doesn't matter. It's animated and it's a single sprite. So that's object 1, that's object 0. Object 1 is the player fire. So that's where I've chosen sprite 1, which is that single white dot. Bang. Well, actually, it's 4 dots, to be honest. Player death, well, the player can't die, so there was no point changing that. Now, you could have this as a 2-player shooter, and that would be quite a fun thing to do, because then you're basically competing with your mate to see who can shoot the most balloons or whatever is going to be in your gallery shooter. So you could do that. And what I would do is I would have a new sprite of a different colour. That's how I would delineate that, okay? So I would, make a copy of sprite 0 back in your sprite editor, make it Blue's not going to work on a blue background, but you know what I mean. You give it another color so that you can differentiate player 1 and 2. There's no death, and then we're into enemy fire. Now the enemies don't shoot because it's pointless in a gallery shooter like this. So we don't need to worry about that. We don't need to worry about enemy fire. What we do need to worry about is what the enemies look like. So enemy 1. Oh, and that's the enemy death. I hate the order it does this in. So there's the enemy death. Again, it's not animated. It could be I could make these fly out a little bit over the course of a few frames, but I've just done a single frame explosion of the balloon. Balloons pop and disappear pretty quick. So there's the different enemy deaths. Again, I've only utilized one. And then here's my, so object 22 is my enemy. Again, I could have animated that, maybe make the string wobble a little bit. It's just a demo of the potential of what you can do. So kept it simple, and that's all I've had to create there. Right, so then under enemy bits, edit enemy bits. So here's your enemy, here's your first enemy. You have to give it a speed, otherwise it can't move when you place your waves. So remember, and I forgot when I was putting this together, remember to put your speed in. I've set them to 2. I've given them a number of points. So every time you hit one of these enemies, you get 100 points. It takes 1 hit to kill them. Okay. They don't fire, so fire direction doesn't mean anything. Fire rate doesn't mean anything. Bullet speed doesn't mean anything. So most of this doesn't mean anything. Again, I've said I haven't landed a sound bank, so none of this is of relevance down here, but you can do that. Oh, what is of relevance is obviously the explosion object. You need to make sure you choose the right explosion object so that you get that when it gets shot. Now, the really important section, other than points and speed and number of hits to kill, is this section here. This is where you're setting up what's going to happen if the enemy hits your ship, because usually you'd have a ship or a player, right? We've got a crosshair. So if the crosshair collides with the balloon, you don't want anything to happen. Your enemy's not going to die and the ship's not going to die. So you leave those set to no. What you're interested in is enemy to bullet. Obviously the enemy is going to die, yes, and the bullet is going to die, yes. Okay, that's what you have to set there. That is that there. Now, if we go into player limitations, player 1, and of course you could set this up for both players. First of all, player parameters. You got to enable the player, otherwise there are no players. So that's set to yes. Lives 1, that's meaningless in this scenario, but you must have a speed. Now, I recommend if you're doing a gallery shooter, that the speed of the crosshair needs to be slightly faster than the speed of your enemy. So my enemy's speed is 2. I've let the player crosshair move at speed 3. Score color, you can toy about with that. It's just the color that the score is going to be printed on the screen. Amount of bullets I've set to 1. Directional fire means nothing in this scenario, so that's 0. Bullet duration lasts for 1 frame basically. Bullet speed is 0 because it's not, otherwise it would go up from the player every time you fire. So we don't need that. And the fire rate I've left at 1. No extra lives because lives are meaningless in this instance, and that is about it because we're not playing about with sound right now, but that's where you would set your sound effects if you were. Right, edit player area. You can actually restrict, and I'm using my joypad right now but below the desk. I'm using my joypad below the desk, not my joystick, but that is where you would set if you wanted to limit, move those up and down. Because maybe I want it to only be above the wall that the player can move. Maybe, you know, you could have that. Or what you can, because you can set this per player as well. So maybe, you know, there's different restrictions for player 1, player 2. I think for a gallery shooter, you're going to let them roam the whole screen, right? Because that's what you'd do. In my view, that's what I'd do anyway. Okay, so we can come out of that. Edit play area, we've done that. Edit starting position. So once you've set your play area, that's just where, if you see that crosshair in the middle, that's where you're setting where the player starts the game. So that's that. Easy peasy. Right, so once you've done all that, and you could do the same for player 2, like I said, if you're making this 2-player, you need to add your attack waves. So we were only playing about with 1 enemy at the moment. So I'm going to insert enemy here, and I'm going to place the enemy. Select rough position. Well, it's a static thing anyway, so I'm just going to press fire on my joypad. Select fine position. Again, it's a static level. I'm going to hit fire on my joypad. And then look, I've got an enemy. And I'm going to have these floating across the screen. Now, so I'm going to put this off to the side here. Now, I want this to have a delay. And I can't remember how you do it. I think the only way might be is to I'm just going to move it up and down off the... Oops. It's going to do anything I tell it to. It's going to quickly come in. I'm moving it up and down off the screen just so it does some moving. Because at the moment they're all kind of appearing all at the same time. Right? And then I'm going to bring it in and I'm just going to make it dance across the screen like this. And then off it's going to fly. Okay? Easy as that. Right mouse button to store. Oh no, wait. None of that meant anything. That was the start position. I need to set the start position. So I've started off screen, press fire. There we go. Draw the path. Okay. I thought that was moving a bit fast. So I'm just going to make it go up and down. So I'm going down, I'm going up, I'm going down, I'm going up, I'm going down. I just want to delay it coming on. And then I'm going to bring it across. Here we go. That's more the pace I was expecting. And so it actually gives you a bit of an indication. Oh, see that flick? That's because when you move the sprites towards the top, it does think you're going to scroll the level, even though it's a non-scrolling level. So don't worry too much about that. And then off it goes. Off it floats. Okay. Right mouse button to store that. And then it gives you a second option. I'm going to go stick left to store rather than right to cancel. And I have stored another enemy. Okay, there we go. It's as easy as that. So you can see you could have different enemy types. You could make them fly across the screen, do whatever you want. And that is that. Now, the other important bit is the level type. So let's exit that. So edit levels. Okay. Edit levels. So edit level parameters. This is very important to make this kind of game work. Keep it in mind, this isn't what the package is designed for. Shoot 'em up construction kit is not designed for this. First and foremost, this is level 1 that we're playing about with. Okay, I haven't made any other levels yet. What's the speed of the level? Well, it's 1. I want it to be 0, but I can't. So it's 1. Duration, that's basically how long it's going to go until it moves into level 2, level 3, depending on what we set. Okay, so 539, whatever. I think this is more the number of seconds. I think we're around 50 seconds here. It's not strictly seconds. It's a bit hit and miss, but anyway. This is the really important bit. Level type is still. Your other options are scrolling or push scroll, always vertical. Okay, so by making this a still level, that's how we're getting this gallery effect. And at the end of the level, I want it to loop. It doesn't seem to be doing that, but Shoot 'em up construction kit does have its issues. If you build multiple levels, you can make that kind of not noticeable. What seems to be annoying me at the moment is when I ask it to loop, it then goes back to level 1, but it turns it into a scrolling level for no apparent reason. Anyway. And that's that. So if we exit that, current level map. Oh no, we've already edited the background. Oh, that's just, yeah. So if you're making multiple levels, basically you would scroll up. Let me just, so that's the start and end of that level. If I, yeah, because it's a still level, it's going to be that. When you edit the background, you could create other areas, and then you could make level 2. So you're basically creating a series of slides, I guess, or screens stacked one on top of the other, and then you'd set the beginning and end point of level 2 as a completely different section, level 3 completely different section on your vertically tiled background map is how you would do that. I'm only dealing with one level here. And there we go. That is how we've built the game. Let's see what our changes have done. Proper test. So we should have that delayed guy. Oh, come here. And you'll notice the hit isn't... So that delayed guy came in. Beautiful. Now see, I'm shooting all the time. The hit... I toyed about with this a while back. I can't tell exactly where on the enemy sprite it's hitting when your player and your bullet sprite is over the top of the enemy sprite, because that's not what shoot 'em up. See, look, it's making it scroll. But that's not what shoot 'em up construction kit is expecting. It's expecting the bullet to shoot upwards from the player sprite, and it's not. So again, we're asking it to do something it's not designed to do, but guess what? It's doing it. It's doing it. So I don't really have a problem with that. I don't know why it makes that scroll when you loop it. What you really want is an end game. So you just want it to, yeah, you play the level or levels, and then you just want it to end, and then you can compare scores with your mates. That's how I would do this if I was making a full game out of it. Hope you enjoyed that. That was just a demo of what I've done and how I did it. How long have I been recording for? Way too long. I'll see you in the next one. Next week's video will be about my Transformers that I got for Christmas. I'll drop 3 separate videos because people that are into toys may want to collect those separately. So I'm going to do 3 separate videos, but I'll drop them all in the same week. If you're not into that, don't watch them. It's fine with me, and then watch the next computer-related video that I release. They'll be clearly titled. All right, it's not a toy channel, but I am going to cover those Transformers. Thank you for watching.